Hello, my name is Anirudh and we'll be looking at different BDA tools that are available in the market. First, let's see what Hadoop is. So Hadoop is an open source software framework and it provides massive storage for any kind of data. And it can allow us to store big data in a distributed environment so we can process it parallelly. Now let's look at the history of Hadoop. As the internet was growing in the late 1900s and the early 2000s, search engines and indexes were created to help locate relevant information. In the early years, search results were written by humans, but as the web grew from dozens of pages to millions of pages, automation was required. Web crawlers were created and many search engines and startups such as Yahoo and Google took off. One such project was an open source search engine called Nutch, the brainchild of Doug Cutting and Mike Caffarella. They wanted to return web search results faster by distributing data and calculations across different computers so that multiple tasks could be accomplished simultaneously. Another startup called Google was in process at the same time. It was based on the same concept, which is storing and processing the data in a distributed fashion. In 2006, Cutting joined Yahoo and took the Nudge project with him, as well as the ideas from Google's early work with automating distributed data storage and processing. The Nudge project was divided into a web crawler portion that remained Nudge and the distributed computing and processing portion that was known as Hadoop after Cutting's toy elephant. In 2008, Yahoo released Hadoop as an open source project. Today, Hadoop's framework and ecosystem of technologies are managed and maintained by the non-profit Apache Software Foundation (ASF). Now let's look at the problems with the traditional approach. In the traditional approach, the main issue was handling of the heterogeneity of data. RDBMS only focuses on structured data like banking transactions, operational data, and etc. Whereas Hadoop is specialized in semi-structured and unstructured data like text, videos, Facebook posts, social media posts, etc. RDBMS is proven, highly consistent, matured, and is supported by many companies. But Hadoop is in demand because right now we are moving towards big data, which is mostly unstructured data. The first problem is storing the large amount of data. Storing the huge amount of data in a traditional system is not possible. The reason is that the storage is limited to one system and the data is increasing at a very huge rate. Second problem is storing heterogeneous data. Now we know in the traditional approach we only store structured data, but big data consists of unstructured, semi-structured and structured data. So we need to make sure that we have a system that can handle all these different types of data. The third problem is access and process speed. The hard disk capacity is increasing at a steady rate, but the access speed and the processing speed is not increasing at the similar rate. Let's try to understand this with an example. So if we have a 100 Mbps link and we are processing 1 terabyte of data, it will take around 3 hours. Now if you have 4 machines with one channel, for the same amount of data it will take 43 minutes. So thus accessing and processing speed is much better while distributing the workload. Now let's see why Hadoop is used. As we saw earlier, using multiple systems increases our performance drastically. So the ability to store and process huge amounts of data quickly is one of the reasons why we use Hadoop. With data volumes and varieties constantly increasing, especially from social media and IoT, this is a key consideration. Second point is computing power. Hadoop's distributed computing model processes big data very fast. The more computing nodes we have, the more processing power we have. Fault tolerance. Data and application processing are protected against hardware failure. If a node goes down, jobs are automatically redirected to other nodes to make sure that the distributed computing does not fail. Multiple copies of all data is stored automatically. The fourth point is flexibility. Unlike traditional relational databases, we don't have to pre-process the data before we store it. We can store as much data and as much as we want and decide how to use it later. This includes unstructured data like text, images, and videos. The fifth point is low cost. The open source framework is free and uses commodity hardware to store large amounts of data. And the last point is scalability. We can easily grow our system and increase more nodes. Little administration is required. There are basically two components of Hadoop, which is HDFS and Yarn. HDFS is Hadoop distributed file system, which allows us to store various forms of data across a cluster. Yarn is a resource management in Hadoop. It allows for parallel processing over the data that is stored across the HDFS. HDFS creates an abstraction that is similar to virtualization. We see HDFS logically as a single unit for storing data, but we are actually storing it across multiple nodes in a distributed fashion. HDFS follows a master-slave architecture. In HDFS, name node is the master node and the data nodes are the slaves. The name node contains the metadata about the data that is stored in the data nodes, such as which data block is stored in which data node, and where the replications of the data block are kept. The data blocks are replicated in data nodes and the default replication factor is 3. Since we are using normal off-the-shelf hardware, the failure rate can be high. So if one of the data nodes fails, the HDFS still has a replication of the data nodes in 2 other places. We can also configure the replication factor based upon our requirements. Now let's look at Yarn. Yarn performs all the processing activities by allocating resources and scheduling tasks. Resource Manager is again a master node. It receives the processing request and then passes parts of the request to the corresponding node managers accordingly, where the actual processing takes place. Node Manager is installed on every data node and is responsible for the execution of every task. Let's look at where Hadoop is used. Hadoop is normally used for search engines such as Yahoo, Amazon, Google, etc., log processing, data warehousing, video and image analysis. Now let's see where we should not use the Hadoop. Scenarios where we require low latency data access or quick access to small parts of data or multiple data modification. That means if we want to access and modify the data frequently, and if we have lots of small files. Hadoop is suitable for some scenarios where we have few but very large files. Now let's look at the requirements of various BDA tools. Hadoop is an open source catch-all technology with incredible scalability, low-cost storage system, and fast-paced data analytics. Hadoop vendor distributions overcome the drawbacks and issues with the open source edition of Hadoop. These distributions have added functionalities that mainly focus on support. Most of the Hadoop vendors provide technical guidance and assistance to make it easy for customers to adopt Hadoop. Reliability. Hadoop vendors promptly act and respond whenever a bug is detected. And then the last point is completeness. Hadoop vendors couple their distributions with various add-on tools which help customers customize the Hadoop application to address their specific tasks. Now let's look at the top commercial Hadoop vendors that are available in the market. So they are Amazon Elastic MapReduce, Cloudera CDH Hadoop Distribution, Hortonworks Data Platform, MapR Hadoop Distribution, IBM Open Platform, and Microsoft Azure HD Insight Cloud-based Hadoop Distribution. Let's talk about Amazon Web Services Elastic MapReduce Hadoop Distribution. So the Amazon Hadoop vendor has been there since the beginning of Hadoop, and it has been very successful. This program renders an easy-to-use, well-organized data analytics platform built on the powerful HDFS architecture, with major focus on MapReduce queries. AWS EMR exploits Hadoop tools to a great extent by providing a high-scale and secure infrastructure platform to its users. AWS EMR handles big data like web indexing, scientific simulation, log analysis, bioinformatics, machine learning, financial analysis, and data warehousing. This is generally regarded as the best choice for organizations who do not want to manage thousands of servers directly, as they can rent out this cloud-ready infrastructure for Amazon. DynamoDB is another major NoSQL database offering AWS Hadoop vendor that was deployed to run its giant consumer website. Redshift is completely managed petabyte scale data analytics solution that is cost effective in big data analysis with BDA Tools. According to Forrester, Amazon is the king of cloud for companies in need of public cloud-hosted Hadoop return platforms for big data management services. Now let's talk about Hortonworks Hadoop distribution. Hortonworks Hadoop vendor features in the list of top 100 winners of Red Herring. Hortonworks is a pure-play Hadoop company that drives open-source Hadoop distributions in the IT market. The main goal of Hortonworks is to drive all of its innovations through the Hadoop Open Data Platform and build an ecosystem of partners that speeds up the process of Hadoop adoption among enterprises. Principal analyst of Forrester, Michael, said, where the open source community isn't moving fast enough, Hortonworks will start new projects and commit Hortonworks resources to get them off the ground. Apache is an example of a Hadoop cluster management console developed by Hortonworks Hadoop vendor for provision management and monitoring Hadoop clusters. The Hortonworks Hadoop vendor is reported to attract 60 new customers every quarter from giants like Samsung, Spotify, Bloomberg, and eBay. Hortonworks has garnered strong engineering partnerships with Red Hat, Microsoft, SAP, and Teradata. Now let's talk about the Cloudera Hadoop distribution. Cloudera Hadoop vendors ranks top in the big data vendors space, making Hadoop a reliable platform for business use since 2000. Cloudera, founded by a group of engineers from Yahoo, Google, and Facebook, is focused on providing enterprise-ready solutions of Hadoop with additional customer support and training. Cloudera Hadoop vendor is on the right path towards its goal, with 53% of the Hadoop market when compared to 11% of the Hadoop market possessed by MapR and 16% by Hortonworks Hadoop vendors. Forrester says Cloudera's approach to innovation is to be loyal to core Hadoop, but to innovate quickly and aggressively to meet customer demands and differentiate its solution from those in the other commercial Hadoop. MapR with Hadoop distribution. MapR has been recognized extensively for its advanced distributions in Hadoop, marking a place in the Gartner report, Tool Vendors in Infrastructure and Big Data 2012. MapR has scored the top place for its Hadoop distributions among all vendors. MapR has made considerable investments to get over the obstacles to worldwide adoption of Hadoop, which include enterprise-grade reliability, data protection, integrating Hadoop into existing environments with ease, and infrastructure to render support for real-time operations. In 2015, MapR plans to make further investments to maintain its significance in the big data vendors list. Apart from this, MapR is also set to announce its technical innovations for Hadoop with the intent of supporting business as it happens to increase revenue, mitigate risks, and reduce costs. IBM InfoSphere Big Insights Hadoop distribution. IBM InfoSphere Big Insights is an industry-standard IBM Hadoop distribution that combines Hadoop with enterprise-grade characteristics. IBM provides Big Sheets and Big Insights as a service via its Smart Cloud enterprise infrastructure. With IBM Hadoop distribution, users can easily set up and move data to Hadoop clusters in no more than 30 minutes, with data processing rates of 60% per Hadoop cluster per hour. With IBM Big Insights innovation, customers can get to market at a rapid pace with their applications that incorporate advanced big data analytics by harnessing the power of Hadoop. Microsoft Azure's HD Insight cloud-based Hadoop distribution. Microsoft is an IT organization which is not well known for embracing open source software solutions, but it has made the efforts to run this open data platform on Windows. Hadoop as a service offering by Microsoft's big data solution is best leveraged through its public cloud product, Windows Azure HD Insight. Particularly developed to run on Azure, there is another production-ready feature of Microsoft named Polybase, which lets the user search for information that is available on SQL Server during the execution of Hadoop queries. Microsoft has great significance in delivering a grown Hadoop stack to its customers. Microsoft's Azure HD Insight is a public cloud-only based product, and customers cannot run on their own hardware with this. According to analysts, Hadoop's momentum is unstoppable as its open source roots grow widely into enterprises. Its refreshingly unique approach to data management is transforming how companies store, process, and analyze and share big data. That was the end of my presentation. Thank you.